My name is Joe Reichert. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Saab Doctor. Today is something everyone has been waiting for. We're working on the Mercedes again. Okay, maybe that's not it, but regardless, we're working on the Mercedes again. We're going to try and actually fix it this time. And I loaded the parts cannon, so let's check out what I bought. Alright, we'll start on the left. Now this is actually the thermostat that came with it. I looked this up. It didn't look like it was the right temperature. So what I did was, I bought a different thermostat. This is the one that FCP Euro recommended. It's a Waller. And here is what is the most interesting on this. It's as if it had the Mercedes part number there and they just scratched it out. Which actually happens a lot with these companies that do the OE parts. So, got that. I have new transmission hoses. These are the ones that were supposed to be like $300. I actually got these off of a company on eBay called Parts Container that actually sold me these as well. These are the crush washers. And I got all that for like $160, which was just cheap. Brand new hoses. Picked these up from Rock Auto. One's a Dayco, one's a Gates. It was whatever they had, that was right. These are the new seal rings for the oil cooler. Got these from FCP Euro. Just in case that doesn't fix the heat, I have a new actuator. I know it says door lock actuator. That's not actually what it is. Then, onto a few tune-up things. Oh wait, can't forget, I grabbed a temp sensor. This is also from FCP Euro. This actually came with the Mercedes. This is a new power steering reservoir. Mine's leaking, so we're going to use this. I know it's a Euro parts piece, which isn't the most quality, but this is a new belt tensioner. I bought this a while back. Also have a Mercedes filter kit with the plug and with a new conductor plate. So I'm going to replace the filter, the plug's in here. Oh, guess I can't do that one-handed today. Don't know why. Oh, here we go. Plug's in here, so I'm just going to, replace the plug, the filter, conductor plate. I have all 16 spark plugs and all 16 wires. So I'm just going to kind of do everything. Oh, and the radiator. Can't forget that because the old radiator I broke off one of the tabs. Where is it? I have this upside down right now, so it's on the other side. But, broke off this. So, brand new radiator for the ML. It'll be significantly happier. But, what we start off with first, drilling and tapping these out. So, let's get it done. Alright, I'm going to start off by drilling a pilot hole. Now, this is going to be a M6 when we tap it out. However, I'm starting off with 1/8 of an inch. Alright, make sure when you're doing this to oil the drill bit. I am not going to drill very quickly, just to make sure that we don't have any issues and I don't want to mess up center on this hole. So let's get her done. Alright, so I've got the holes drilled. The one didn't line up exactly how I wanted, so we're going to see how that works out, but they're drilled, tapped. I cleaned up all the surfaces with a wire wheel because there was a lot of corrosion in there. So now I'm going to put the thermostat in, we'll see how it fits and see if I drilled and tapped deep enough. If I didn't, I'll probably just get a little shorter screws. So let's do that. I believe that, as Borat would say, great success. Yeah, that was probably a terrible rendition, but 3 episodes later, we actually have a thermostat on that I was trying to do in 1 episode, and that means I didn't drill and tap that hole too far off, and I didn't need extra washers, which means I tapped the holes deep enough. This is just all kinds of good. So now I can start putting everything else back together. Okay, so I actually ran to the hardware store, grabbed a little bit shorter bolt, hard to see in that angle. I'm going to try those on, otherwise I grabbed a couple washers. I just want to make sure that that thermostat is 100% snug. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little bit of anti-seize because I don't want the next owner, or me later on in life if I still have it, to run into the same issue that I just had. The other thing, if you noticed in the video that I did, was I actually cleaned up around that thermostat housing with a wire wheel. There's just so much corrosion and whatnot in there, I want to make sure to get a good seal on there. So I'm going to put these new bolts in if they fit, with a little anti-seize on them. Also going to pull the thermostat out so I can clean up the temp sensor housing with my Dremel tool, so then I can put the thermostat and the temp sensor back in. So let's get that going. So, just so everyone knows, if you buy the Rain one from, or Rhine, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, Temp Sensor from FCP Euro, it does not come with the clip. I thought it did. So what I ended up doing was I actually ended up using the little bit longer bolt with 2 washers on it. I mean, I know that's not the stock way to do it, but sometimes you have to improvise when you're having an issue like this. The other thing I did was I ended up taking the thermostat off to put the temp sensor in first. I didn't realize that that actually had to be held down and couldn't fit the hold down bracket over that. So with all that said and done, now I think we can actually start reassembling the rest of this. But actually, before we do that, got to replace the power steering pump reservoir. I'm going to do that first because I've got a new one for that. And that should fix this leak, which then I can clean that up a bit. So let's do that first. Okay, my guess is the culprit is actually this O-ring, of which the power steering reservoir that I have didn't come with one of these. So I guess I'm going to have to go to the Mercedes dealer and find out if they carry this. Or I'll have to go to the auto parts store and find out. But that's not going to slow us down tonight. We're going to keep working on things. Alright, because the oil cooler had been leaking so long, I'm actually going to clean up this area. Going to hit that with some brake clean and a paper towel and get that cleaned up a bit. So honestly, at this point, this is going to be clean enough. I'm not going to spend much more time on this. I'm going to put the oil cooler back in now. That should be pretty easy since I have the new seals for it. After the oil cooler, I'll put the new belt tensioner back in since I took the belt tensioner out. And that's actually probably where I'm going to end up for this evening on this thing, because unfortunately that power steering reservoir O-ring is going to stop me on that. So let's get those two back in. Okay, so of the two from the kit, put that one there and that one there. Alright, the oil cooler is back on. One thing I'm going to say is, when you take something off a month and a half ago, sometimes you forget exactly what tools you used to get it off and what you need to get it back on. So, a couple extensions, extension, a swivel, a bit of finagling, and it's back. Now, time for that tensioner. Alright, well I'm putting things back that got pulled off. Time for this tensioner pulley. Alright, next up I'm going to start by stripping down the radiator, getting the new radiator all ready to get put in. I'm going to start with taking the condenser off. Then I'm going to take these side bits off. Then I'm going to pull the AC dryer off. After that, I'm going to flip it over and pull the fan off. Alright, since I've got brand new hoses, all of that stuff, I can just start putting the new radiator together. And actually, I'm going to get rid of this piece of cardboard because the new radiator is completely dry. I did decide to put a new piece of cardboard out just to kind of protect the radiator from damage, though. I didn't want to use that old one because it was full of antifreeze and trans fluid, and why get this thing all dirty? So I'm going to start off just the opposite of how I took the other one apart. Okay, so what I was having an issue with the fan is this was just a bit more of a tight fit than I thought it was. So I had to do some measurements. I want to make sure I had the right radiator because there's actually a VIN split in the radiator. And I double checked and I triple checked, but sometimes that stuff gets mixed up. So next up, put the AC dryer on, and then those two sides, and then the condenser. Alright, so now the radiator is completely ready to go back in. Now I'm going to point this out before anybody else says it. Yes, I know I didn't replace any of the O-rings for the AC system. There's a reason for that. I know that if I decide to diagnose the AC system, first off, I'm going to have to replace a bunch of O-rings anyways. Second, I'm going to have to replace the dryer anyways because the system's been open for so long. So, I guess where I'm going to end it right now is I need to go to the Mercedes dealership tomorrow, see if I can get that O-ring for the power steering pump, and go from there. Alright, new power steering pump O-ring. When I got this from the Mercedes dealer, they pretty much said that these are like the most common thing to go bad on these earlier Mercedes. I shouldn't say earlier, but like late 90s, early 2000s Mercedes when the power steering starts giving you issues. It's funny because I looked at them at first and didn't think there was a huge difference, but then I realized that this edge on this one, and this is really hard to see, but there's like an edge on this one where this one is just really worn out. So I'm going to guess that's going to help seal that new tank up. Then the reservoir won't leak anymore. So let's get the new reservoir in and get going on getting the radiator and everything else back in. All right, let's just get this hose switched over. I'll tighten that down the rest of the way once I get it in so I can line it up. And let's get her back in the car. Well, I guess I just figured out a big trick for these power steering pump reservoirs. This vice grip. Because I just put that on there and it was done. Sweet, all right. Time to remove this radiator hose. Alright, and then I'll tighten that one up once I actually get the radiator in. That way I can make sure it's in the right position. It's just the exact same way as the power steering line. If you're actually doing this, one thing not to forget is the radiator has these two rubber pieces on the top. You need to remove those and put those on your new radiator. So I'm going to pull these off now. Use a little WD-40 around the edge just to give it a little lubricant. I mean, these are almost 20 years old, so is this radiator, so I'm sure that they were stuck on there pretty well. So then we just slide these on and slip the new radiator in. Okay, so there's two pins in the bottom. You need to make sure that it's in. I've got this one all in. I'm going to start hooking up all the lines and hoses and whatnot, and then put the front end back together. That was the one thing that's how I broke the last radiator, so that's how I extracted it. Wish I would have maybe been a little bit more gentle with that one, I guess. Oh well. So I don't know exactly where the camera stopped. I guess my battery charger wasn't charging last night, which is why the camera's on the other side now, because that's where the outlet is. I stopped because I whacked my finger on something. It started kind of hurting, and I was like, what the heck? And I turned around, I looked at the camera, I was like, and we're not recording. So right now I'm just at the point where I'm putting the hoses on the radiator, and then we'll put the core support and everything back in. So let's keep on moving. Now, one thing I am doing that you may or may not have seen before was that I'm actually trimming the hose clamps down, just because they were a little bit long. I'm just using a Dremel tool and a cut-off wheel on that. I just want to make sure that they don't, rub on anything, or so we don't have any problems with anything. I don't want it to, cut through a belt or something, or another hose. Alright, so I just did the final check. Now it's time to put the radiator support back in, And I'm not going to put the headlights back in because I need to get some things to replace these studs with, which I completely forgot about until now. So I'm going to put that radiator support back in, get all the rest of the hoses back in that I can do, and that's probably where I'm going to wrap this one up. Alright, now just for this lower radiator hose and we'll be good. Alright, now that that lower radiator hose is done, time to get these wires connected back up here. Alright, and for this one I actually have the cover that I broke, so let's fix this quick. Okay, so I thought I had some glue or epoxy or something, but I guess I don't, so I won't be getting that back together today. I think that might be where I conclude this one. Next time around, I'm going to do the transmission conductor plate, the plug, the trans lines, and try and do a tune-up on it because it still needs all 16 plugs and 16 wires changed, which I've never done. And honestly, everybody, I'm just going to let the cat out of the bag. I think I'm going to sell it. I've had it for 2 years. I got it as a trade. I was planning on flipping it to begin with, and then I fell in love. But I need to get my 9.7 fixed. I need to start using that instead. And having this just keeps making me, you know, push that off because why fix it? I've got the Mercedes. So I think that's what I'm at. I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. Tell me in the comments what you think about that. Tell me in the comments what you think it's worth. If you're interested in it, let me know. I want to get somewhere around $6,500 for it. I've got a lot of money invested in it. You can see that in this video up here. Otherwise, let me know your thoughts. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and Saab on, folks.